Hello, my name is Jason Bontempo. I am the CEO and Director of Gladiator Metals, a high-grade copper-focused company based in the Yukon.
Jason, good to meet you. We've not met or spoken before, so if you don't mind, give me a little bit on your background. What have you done that's kind of relevant to what you're doing today?
Sure. Chartered accountant by training many years ago, but I've been actively involved in junior resources for the last 20 years, over 20 years. Essentially either on the board in management as an advisor, founder, and a lot of investing as well. Yes.
But tell me, how did you pick up? Obviously, we're talking about Whitehorse Copper Project, but you've got a bunch of assets in your land package. How did you pick this up?
So the Whitehorse Copper Belt, Whitehorse Copper Project, is essentially a 35-kilometre long copper belt. It was originally a project I looked at 15 years ago through my relationship with drillers, Jim and Rob Coyne, who are based in Whitehorse. They run Kluane Drilling. They're a global drilling business that has over 250 drill rigs and 1,500 employees around the world. And they happened to be drilling for me in northwest China at the time. And through that connection, I had looked at Whitehorse Copper back in '07. I was going to IPO it in Australia in 2008. And of course, we hit the global financial crisis. Fast forward, so it never happened. Fast forward to 2022, and I'm reacquainted with Jim and Rob in Whitehorse, and they'd moved from owning around 30% of the copper belt to having aggregated the whole 100%. So that was very exciting, and I was jumped on it very quickly, and that allowed us to come to an agreement with Gladiator Metals, and here we are 2 years on, doing work on the ground for the first time, actually in 40 years, that this project has had a dedicated technical team and funding.
Okay, so and what did you know about had things changed since the first time you looked at it? What data were you looking at?
Yeah, no, they actually hadn't changed much. Essentially, Jim and Rob had aggregated the ground over the years under their ownership. And look, they'd done a little bit of exploration work, most of the time ad hoc, not organised, and for the best part, really training their drillers in their backyard. Essentially, the project runs along the western margin of Whitehorse City. Whitehorse City is approximately 30,000 people and is the main city of the territory of the Yukon.
So just tell me, because obviously, when we're looking at the material, there's a lot of different projects on the go or potentially on the go here, and the press releases are banging out pretty high grade intercepts. It's all exciting. The trouble with all exciting is that it all demands money. So how do you get focused? And what are you focusing on?
Yes. So why don't I give you a little bit of background and probably answer a bit more of your earlier question. No, there hadn't been a lot of work done since I'd seen it in '07. Yes, there was some additional drilling, but not a lot. And when I sent our now president, Marcus Harden, our chief geologist, to conduct due diligence, essentially he focused on the southern portion of the belt, and in particular at an area called Carley Park. Carley Park had approximately 200 holes drilled by Hudbay, a previous operator of the project. And it was from digitizing a whole bunch of old dusty boxes and records in boxes that we soon realized that Carley Park had the potential or initial start of a very attractive high-grade copper resource at surface, albeit based on historical drilling. So the background is that from 1967 to 1982, Hudbay Mining had operated from one small deposit on the belt, and they'd mined 10.5 million tonnes at 1.5% copper and almost a gram gold. So Carley Park was going to be the next cab off the rank, if you like. It's about 10 to 15 kilometres south of where they were operating. But by 1982, the copper price had halved. That was like the third oil price shock by then. And it essentially put the project, they shut the project down, and Hudbay went and focused in the Flin Flon up in Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So Carly Park for us was the most advanced prospect of what would be at least 5 or 6 very advanced prospects where they range across the southern portion of the belt, across probably a 20-kilometre strike. And really what they are outcropping areas of high-grade scar mineralization. So Hudbay mined from Little Chief predominantly, but what they did do is they ran up and down the belt and noticed wherever there was outcropping scar, they would closely spaced drill, and they essentially just ripped off the outcropping tons. However, at Carly, it was a bit more substantial, and they'd put more holes in, and they certainly had a reserve, and they were going to get going, and then they decided to pull out. So we've focused our efforts at Carly because after due diligence, Marcus came back and said, hey, I think I see around 15 to 20 million tonnes at 1.5% copper from surface. So we thought, wow, that's an excellent start, excellent cornerstone to an advanced exploration effort. And therefore it's been our focus. We've now done a significant amount of work there. We see it being much larger, and we will be aiming to deliver a maiden resource in the first quarter of next year. But contemporaneously, we still have a number of targets along the belt, which has been highlighted by Hudbay's previous mining efforts, really. And we are actively working exploration on them as well, and we'd like to bring them further up the curve, the resources curve as well at the same time. So it's not too onerous. We're working in along the western margin of the city. We have excellent highway and road access and trail access, excellent draw on labour resource, being so close to the city, and we can pretty much work all year round. So our dollars go a fair way, Matthew. We were probably averaging at around $200 per diamond metre. We're currently sitting on a cash treasury of 15 million Canadian dollars. Our market cap is approximately $40 million. And we have a good 30,000 metres scheduled this year. 10,000 metres first up at Carly Park. We're probably halfway through that at the moment, and some of the results we've been releasing are from that drilling. And then we've got a third rig that's about to start next week on the Arctic Chief target, which is about 10 kilometres away, 10 to 15. So actively working up the 3 to 5 priority areas, of which Carly is the cornerstone and flagship. Right,
and obviously we're going to talk in sort of copper equivalent terms here, but there's also gold in there as well. Does the kind of gold price kind of affect your thinking in terms of the kind of the geological model? Geological model, and I guess the drill model in terms of where you go and what you go chasing. Because with companies like this, I'm always intrigued as to what am I investing into? Is this an explore code to set up for someone else to come along and develop this thing, or how far along do you think you can take it? In which case, what's the plan?
Yeah, so look, the plan really is, because we're in what we call an advanced exploration stage, there is just so much potential to uncover first, to even think about development or mining phase for us at this point in time. The reason why I say that is because Hudbay really never right-sized this project. They didn't rise above and really think about what could lie beneath these outcropping skarn prospect areas. So that's what we're doing, and we can see over the next 18 months runway that we'd like to unlock a maiden resource at Carly, but also show that the belt's, well, our view is that we are targeting over 100 million tonnes at at above 1% copper, not including any credits. So I think once we've had the opportunity to do that, then the runway towards how far can we take it will be another chapter for the project. In terms of the gold, yes, there was really good gold grade in the Chiefs area, which is in the middle section of the belt. However, at Carly Park, Up until recently, the grade was either non-existent or very low. It was, in fact, the multi-elements that it does boast is high-grade molybdenum, and then to a lesser extent, silver. But the moly can run from 0.1 to 0.3%, which is quite high for moly. But of the drilling we've done in the last couple of months, we've been hitting some high-grade copper, high-grade gold as well now. So at Carly, which wasn't expected. So really interesting. However, to answer your question in terms of overall the project, I think that the gold grades will always be a credit, but quite an attractive credit, in and around and up of that sort of 1 gram mark.
Right. Okay. And with obviously there's a lot of historic data out there, and you're getting after the drilling yourselves, but and chasing 100 million ton plus. Is there, have you got a sort of sense of the sort of the continuity between sort of Cowley Park, Cub, Chief Trend, Hat, etc., or are these all separate individual?
Yeah, look, there's definitely continuity between Carly and Cub. That's a 2 to 3 kilometre strike, and we can see magnetic anomalism and connection between those two areas, and there's very few in fact there's no drill holes at all between them. Most of the drilling's at each site. When you work towards the Chiefs trend, the Arctic Chief trend, and even further north to the Hat, I would then suggest that these would be more the spoke. So we'd have a hub, and then there'd be spoke areas. But along, again, Matthew, it's not a very lengthy strike. It's and considering the infrastructure of the city is very attractive. So if we could, if we can deliver high grade surface copper tons of anywhere from 1 to 2% copper from surface, and we're ranging in the plus 20 million tons at each of these areas, it certainly becomes very attractive.
Yeah, for sure. Just okay. Well, let's focus then on Cowley. You talk about, obviously it's open in all directions. Can you just describe the type of drilling that you're going to do? Is it open at depth? Is it along strike? I mean, how are you getting after it?
Yeah. So towards the end of last year, we decided to move away from just confirming historic holes, and we decided to drill a fairly even spaced grid of 4 lines to just really underpin the architecture of the envelope we could see, what we considered the mineralized envelope. That was a very successful program. And as part of that program, we started intercepting some very high grade core ranging from 15 to 30 meters that would run from anything from 2 to 7-8%. And it was quite impressive. And so what that did is we were getting a much better understanding about the geological model of Cowley. We originally thought that maybe it was the basin shape, but what we found is, in fact, it was continuing at depth. So what that gave us is set us up for the program that we've started this year, where we're now we're going to be testing at depth, but also very much along strike. So far, we've been testing along strike, and we've been very pleased with the results, even up to recently. You'll see not last night's release, but the previous release, where we've extended a good 200 meters out to the northeast, and we've intercepted some exceptional width and grade that shows the continuity. So we're very much now looking to test how far east and west this high grade core, which sits shallow subsurface, at that sort of 50 to 150 meter depth, not only along strike, but now with a newer interpretation of geological model, very much at depth. And in fact, Little Chief, if you look at the historic mining records and production of Little Chief, it open pit, went underground, and got much higher grade as it went underground. There's some very impressive 40 to 60 meter widths at 4 to 6% copper at Little Chief, and it kept going down to 300-400 meters, which we're not at that depth now. Our average drill depth at Cowley Park is 150 meters.
Look, I'm just conscious we don't have much time today, but I think we agreed before we started we will we will talk again and probably get a little bit more detailed. So for people watching and listening, this is sort of introductory conversation.
Sure.
Can we look at a few other things just in terms of the kind of broad setup, the kind of the corporate structure of this? So you've obviously raised a bit of, well, as of April, you've got a lot of money. You raised some money at the end of last year as well. Is that kind of allocation of capital in a market like this? I think, gold's on a tear. You've got gold. Copper is sort of edging its way up. So I think you've got the right commodity, and with Mali as well, it all helps. But how do you play this in a market that has been so confused and difficult in the last 4 or 5 years for junior miners? You've got some great headlines coming out, but what do you think you need? How do you think you need to kind of package this up so the market can understand what it is that you're trying to be and what the potential is?
Yeah. So, well, let's look at let's just highlight some of the comparisons of who we'd like to be when we grow up, right? So, if you look at Foran, they're advancing what is a initial 40 million tons at 2%, albeit underground, and I think that's going to get a lot bigger. And they've made more discovery there, but they're in development, and they're capped at over 1 billion. If you look at Arizona Sonoran, albeit that they are a much larger tonnage and lower grade, but they're advancing to development, and they have a 300 mil market cap. If you look at Marimaca, again, much larger, more advanced. They're at DFS, but when you look at the core of what they're going to mine, in and around that sort of, I don't know, whatever it might have. I think originally it was 40 million tons at around 1% as a core, but they're a lot bigger. They're capped at 550 million. So we're capped at 50, and we're at a much earlier stage. But I think we can show that what we need to show order of magnitude is give the market a really good idea of the potential inventory that we can report. So right now, with the treasury that we have, and the reason why some of the institutions such as Arimco and Macquarie Bank out of Australia, very highly technical investors, Mackenzie and Dynamic out of Toronto, again, sophisticated resource institution, they want us to tell them what have we got in the ground, what's the potential of this, not just at Cowley, but they see the potential of the whole belt, because every time you do a site visit and you get out the truck, you're standing on copper. So, and it's never really been tested. So for us, we're spending this treasury on drilling to prove up resources. And the first step will be, hey, what have we got at Cowley? And then what potential have we got along that belt? So that's the first focus. The second will be the community engagement, and in particular, working with our traditional owners, the Coyne and the Tarn, but at the moment, primarily the Coyne, because the Cowley Park's in a closer proximity to their lands. And we already have our first agreement with the Coyne, which we signed last year in October, which is a capacity funding agreement, which you can akin to almost like an engagement. We're getting engaged, and we might get married. And so now we're working towards organizing the wedding and getting married. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to give you a feel for the agreement, and I think this agreement will be a substantial agreement with them, and I think that's the sort of just as key milestone as the drilling and defining the potential resource. So I think with achieving those two items I'd like to. I'm hoping to substantially make progress on both in the third quarter of this year. And in particular, can we get an independent, verified exploration target out there, which then gives the market a bit of an idea of what we're dealing with at Cowley, and then obviously some more drilling along the belt, which shows the potential, and give them more confidence in that 100 million ton target, then that could be the catalyst for value when comparing to some of those names that I raised earlier, which you're no doubt familiar with. And then on the social side, continuing to show that we can engage responsibly with good operating procedures and good care of the environment in terms of how we're drilling, and just bringing the project back to the fore in the minds of Whitehorse. It was a very significant operation through the 70s. And, there's still a lot of old timers and former employees and family members that live in Whitehorse and remember, well, definitely remember the mine and the good standard of living it brought at the time.
I mean, can I just ask you about the Coyne Dun First Nation? Certainly in the context of the capacity funding agreement, has this agreement helped accelerate the permitting approval times or eased community consultations?
Matthew, most definitely has it eased community consultation. It certainly provided us the opportunity to be heard. The Coyne Dun First Nation are a very respected and influential First Nation in Whitehorse City. They're very very organised, very sophisticated First Nation. They operate their own economic development arm where they have investment in renewable energy projects, property development. They have their own quarries. So coming to a capacity funding agreement with them, which essentially what that meant was, hey, let's come together, let's talk about what might be to the next stage, how we're going to go about, those discussions. And it's a first step, and it was a very positive first step. And when that got announced, that was very, very much well received by the Whitehorse community. We'd already been doing a significant amount of community consultation, as you should when you're that close, right? And I wouldn't want to be any further away. This project is right next to the best infrastructure. Any further away would be a disadvantage. I would much rather engage in with the community, or positive community engagement and acceptance and social license, than be remote and have overbearing capital requirements or other challenges with what being remote brings. So certainly now we're working towards talking with the Coyne Dun to the next stage, and that is something that we hope to be able to announce towards the end of this year.
Well, Jason, I think you've got to get off, and that's been quite enjoyable sort of introduction to the potential of what's going on here, and we'll definitely love to kind of come back and maybe drill down on some of the detail around the job planning, etc. So appreciate your time today, and let's just stay in touch, and we'll speak soon. Okay.
Thanks, Matthew.